Hello all. So welcome to Get Law. Just give me a minute. I'm just sharing my screen here. And yes, if you all can quickly confirm in the chat section if the screen is visible and if I'm perfectly audible to all of you or not. So welcome here, 3-year LLB MH-CET aspirants. Just awaiting a quick confirmation if you all can see my screen clearly. Super, great. So let's get started, right? So in today's session, in today's discussion, what we are going to do is there are certain sample papers which CT has made live, right? So in today's session, we are going to solve legal reasoning part of one such sample paper here. And I will tell you in this video itself that how you can navigate through your answers, what all think you can do here in this session, what all things you can do when you are solving legal reasoning section, right? So things that you can note down, things that you can focus upon when you are solving legal reasoning section, that is something which is important for all of us to know in order to score maximum out of the session. So here I will go and I'll solve this first paper here for all of you, and we will target specifically legal reasoning section. Just a heads up for all of you that there is another session scheduled at 3:30 p.m. with Sanjana ma'am for solving the English section, right? So make sure that you're attending that session as well. So in today's session, in 12:30 session, we are going to solve legal aptitude and legal reasoning. There's another session scheduled where we'll help you understand how you target verbal section, how you target English section. So make sure that you are attending both of these sessions. Now, without further delay, let's get started and let's try to understand how do we actually solve this paper, right? So let's go ahead, let's solve it, right? So I will just go and click on resume test since I have already attended the test before, right? So that is why it is going for resume test option. But otherwise, in your case, uh, you're supposed to make sure that you are uh, just a minute. Yes, so you're supposed to make sure that you are taking the test just like it is an actual examination. You're supposed to make sure that you are going for the test just like it is an actual examination. You're appearing for the actual examination, focusing on the time limit, focusing on the deadline and everything, right? So let's go ahead. So I will just go and click on continue to mock test portal, and here I'll go and I will launch this test, right? Now I will click on resume test. For me, you can launch test here. Here you see just one heads up for all of you here that in when you are attempting the examination, in that case, you will get some time to read all the information which is available as your instruction for the examination. It is a good practice and it is something which is advisable from the Get Set Law team, from myself, that please take out 2 minutes, 3 minutes of your time to read this important instruction section. You will get informations like if you can go and revisit your answer, whether there is any negative marking or not. So generally, MHCET exam does not have any kind of negative marking. So that is why it is always advisable that please do not skip any question. Make sure that you're marking all the questions. So first, go ahead, mark all the important questions. Then you go the answers that you know of. Then go ahead and mark all the other questions as well. So that is something that you will understand when you're reading the instruction part. So make sure that you're giving some time to read the instruction. Then you click on the box that is there, and then you click on I'm ready to begin, and then your mock test will launch. So this is how your mock test is here. Now, let us start with legal aptitude section. So this is legal aptitude section only. And in this section, you will see that in the first part, there is a passage given. Now, how do we attempt such kind of question? So I will suggest that for MHCT exam specifically, read the information which is given in passage. So this passage is exactly talking about drug laws, drug related laws, that when drug related laws are or when certain use of certain category of drugs are allowed, how penalties are imposed for unauthorized use, what is the international situation when it comes to drug activities or drug related laws, and how are we ensuring that people know how to use these drugs that are available in a manner which is not harmful to them, and at the same time they know that okay, it is for the medical purposes, it is, and we are not abusing such kind of medicines or such kind of drugs which are available, and what kind of penalties are there, and all of this is mentioned here. Very simple language, it is given in very simple language where you can understand the crux of it. So spare initial 1 to 2 minute in reading this, read it properly, you don't have to memorize anything, just read, understand the crux of it. Then we'll go ahead to the question. So in this case, we can see that our first question is, what is a major challenge in enforcing drug related laws? I will give you a heads up here. So when it comes to MH-CET, most of the time you are able to eliminate the options by looking at it. Like if I look at the options here, I know what this passage is talking about. Now, so if I read it, first option is saying that lack of interest in drug related crime. So that is not the purpose of enforcement of law, right? Second is organized crimes and illegal drug trade. Okay. Next is overproduction of legal medicine. So overproduction or anything which goes beyond is not something that is controlled by law, or it is promoted by law, I would rather say, or maybe organizing public protest against the drug laws. So that is not the purpose, or that is not a major challenge in enforcing these laws. So right, so when we talk about what are the major challenges, then you have to read here and you see that okay, the major challenge could be organized crime and illegal drug trade, that is mentioned here, right? So you see that here when we look at the passage, so drug laws exist to regulate certain activities. Okay, then what are countries classifying it as? Then there are the next line is talking about the different drugs that are used and different ways. Then we're talking about the prescription drugs here. We are talking about the penalties which are imposed. We are talking about uh, some nations have decriminalized it, international agreement. Then here you see that despite these laws, illegal drug trade remains a major challenge. So here we get our answer, and it is often linked to organized crime. So okay, we know that there are laws, but in order to enforce it, it is becoming a challenge. What is becoming a challenge? Organized crime and illegal drug trade. So this is our answer that we are deducing from the passage, that we are getting from the passage. So you click on the answer and then you click on next. If let's say you don't want to answer this question, you click on reset answer, or you want to mark it for review, you click on mark it for review, so that when you are done with all your section, you will be able to revisit these questions which you have kept for review. One more thing I would like to mention here is that this questions that you select for mark for review is automatically submitted. Whatever answers you have marked gets automatically submitted when your exam time is over, when your exam deadline is over. So we have marked this option, and now we move to the next question. So it is again based on the same passage. It is talking about what is an alternative approach to strict punishment for drug offenders. So it is saying that okay, there is strict punishment being imposed, but what can be the alternative approach to it? How can we say that there can be another way to ensure that drug offenders are not indulged in such kind of activities? So we have seen that till here the laws are mentioned. Then we see that public awareness campaigns are there to educate people about the risk of drug abuse. Then there are many legal system which also talks about rehabilitation for drug offenders. So we see that okay, there is, on one hand there is strict punishment, but on other hand there are other legal system which is also focusing upon rehabilitation programs. So here we will write this answer as decriminalization and rehabilitation program. That is going to be my second answer. Is it clear? That is how you read the passage simultaneously and you figure out the answers. Because for MHCT papers specifically, you will get all your answers. Trust me when I say this, you will get all your answers from the passage itself. So make sure that you're keeping passage as your Bible. Right. Next is, what is the primary reason for the drug laws? So why do we need drug laws in place? First, to promote pharmaceutical industries. Second, to regulate and control harmful substance. Third, to increase government revenue, and to legalize all drugs. So again, you can look at the options and you can eliminate it from here. That legalize all drugs was never the purpose. Increasing government revenue, we are trying to regulate this industry and not increase government revenue. We are trying to prevent people from abusing drugs, right? Next is promote pharmaceutical industry. That is one aspect. When we talk about drug related laws, there is one, I would rather say this is one part of it where this discussion comes up, that the more restrictions you impose on drugs, the more difficult it gets for pharmaceutical industries to obtain it. But it was not never to promote this industry. So yes, we wanted to regulate and control the harmful substances. So can you see that drug law, why they exist in first place? So to regulate production, distribution, use of substances that can be harmful to individual and society. So this is where you find your answer. Now we again click on next. We go to fourth question that is based on this passage, which is, why are prescription drugs legal, why others are banned? This is the fourth question. So why prescription related drugs? So here you see that there is something mentioned about prescription drugs. So it is stating that prescription drugs such as painkillers are legal but requires doctor approval. Government impose strict penalties for drug trafficking and unauthorized sale to deter illegal drug activities. So whenever you find a particular information in the passage, make sure that you're reading a line prior to it and a line after that, so that if there is any exception or anything, you are able to gauge it, you are able to understand it. Now let us look at the option. It is saying because they are not harmful in any way. No, when we are prescribing, we prescribe certain quantities. So we cannot say that they are not harmful in any way. This is an extreme option. Then because they are profitable for governments. Again, government profitability is not something that is discussed in the passage. Because they are approved for medical use and are regulated. This is something which is mentioned as the crux of the passage. Then all drugs should be freely available. Again, this is entirely against the passage, so our answer would be C in this case. Next, we move on to question number 5. So now you will see that these questions are independent questions. These questions are not based on any kind of passage. So I will read the question here and I will try to reach out to the correct answer. So let me read the question. It is stating that X promised to Y that he will ensure that Y gets employment in a government job. So there is a promise being made that I'll help you in getting a government job. And in return, you're supposed to pay 1 lakh rupees to me. So now you have to understand, or you have to figure out that whether such kind of agreement, such kind of arrangement is valid or not. So we know from Contract Act that any kind of arrangement which is against public policy is void. And here, sale and purchase of government office is something which is against public policy, because here the person is saying that I will ensure that you get an employment. So I am going to do something that is going to give you employment there, right? And for that I'm charging something, so I'm selling that government job to you. That is not allowed because it is a merit based profile. So such kind of agreement will be void. Why other options are incorrect? So it is saying that agreement is valid and enforceable. This is not the right part. We just now discussed. It is saying that agreement is voidable. So voidable concept always arise in case of free consent. Here there is no question of free consent. The agreement is void being a wagering agreement. So it is also not a wagering agreement because it is not based on uncertain events, or it is not based on a win or loss situation. It's a clear understanding that I will do this for you and you will do that for me. Correct. So now we move on to the next question, which is question number 6. Again, this question will require some prior knowledge. So that is why for MHCET, certain theoretical knowledge, not a lot of concepts, but certain basic meaning become important for you, right? So let us understand this. First is this question is inciting disaffection and public disorder, hatred or contempt against government is a legal offense. Now it is asking that what kind of legal offense is it? What is perjury? If I ask all of you that what is perjury? So perjury is when you are lying on oath. So when you have taken a sacred vow, when you have taken a sacred oath before the court that I will not speak lies, and then you make any false statement, you are charged with perjury. What is forgery? Forgery when you're trying to commit fraud, when you're trying to cheat someone, that is forgery. You're trying to fabricate documents, right? That is forgery. Sedition is when you're trying to create that hatred, disaffection, contempt against the government. Revolt is something when you're trying to protest, when you're trying to express your disaffection towards the government. So the correct answer here would be sedition. I'm trying to create that situation where there is a hatred or contempt against government. So your answer would be sedition. This requires some additional knowledge about some basic concepts of law. It does not ask you, MHCT will never ask you sections and all of these things. MHCT will only ask you about uh, it is only going to ask you about concepts that are there, to make sure that you are focusing on those concepts, right? Okay, moving forward to the next question, which is question number 7, that here it is saying to on basis of legal principle and fact choose the most appropriate option. So now in such kind of question your answer should be based on what is the legal principle given. Let us look at the principle here. It is stating that interference with someone's possession or enjoyment of movable property constitute the tort of trespass of goods. So it is saying that when somebody's possession or enjoyment of movable property is interfered with, then you are liable for tort of trespass of goods. Here, this person was sitting with some stolen toy, and the neighbor, who was the owner, came and tried to snatch away that toy. And the owner got sued for the offense of for the tort of trespass. The question is, will he succeed or not? I'll give you an answer here. I'll give you a trick here. So what happens here is our immediate thought goes to the fact that okay, we know that somebody who's the owner will not commit trespass, but my suggestion to all of you here would be that this is where you are applying additional knowledge. This principle is not talking about any defense which is available to you if you are the owner. This is only talking about possession. It is also not talking about lawful possession. So in this case, this person had possession of good. Even if it was stolen, this person had possession of the good. And why the owner came in and tried to snatch away, they interfered with the possession. It is not talking about whether the interference should be illegal, whether the interference should be legal or not. So that is not the case here. So that is why we will go forward and we'll mark the answer as yes, because the toys were in excess possession and trespass is a tort against possession, right? Why we are eliminating option A? Because it is saying that she should not snatch things like that. It's bad manners. It's an ethical option. Ethical options you will always eliminate. Good, bad, right, wrong, all of it depends upon the fact, the principle will always have a legal backing to our answer. That is how you answer, right? And no is not the right option because in this case there was trespass that happened here to the possession. So it is an offense or it is a tort against possession. So this is going to be our right answer. Please tell me if you understood uh, how this exam gets little tricky for certain questions. Okay? Okay, moving to the next question. Again, you're given legal principles and a fact, and you're supposed to mark your answer. So, principle is talking about the fact of private defense. It is stating that every person has a right to defend their own body of another person against any offense affecting the human body. Nothing is an offense which is done in the exercise of right of private defense. And private defense rights also extend to voluntarily causing of death or of any other harm to the assailant, right? Now, in this case, there are brother and sister. And while the brother is of unsound mind and brother tried to kill the sister under the influence of madness, she saved herself by hitting him with a metal object. And in the process, he dies. Are we sure of it here that this is an act done in private defense? Yes. Now let us understand the question and the options. So now during the trial, what is the strongest defense that we can take? So the entire principle is talking about private defense. We have to figure out what is the best defense available for her. So first is we can claim right to private defense to defend herself. Okay. Let us look at the other option. We can claim that her brother was of unsound mind and that he hit her without any reason. Fair. The other person hit me without any reason. But what is my defense here? So that is part is mentioning that I did it to save myself. I did it to defend myself. That part is not given here. So B is not our option. C is saying that B can claim right to private defense to defend herself to the extent of causing any harm other than death. But any harm other than death will not follow. Why? Because in this case, the person was killed. The person died in this case, right? Brother died. So death is caused in this case. Okay. Next question that B, next option, B can claim right of private defense to defend herself even to the extent of causing death. Now, what is the difference between A and B, A and D? A is also talking about private defense, that is there. But D is explicitly mentioning that I had a right to defend till the extent where I can also cause the death of the person, which is mentioned in your second principle, and death happened here. So D is a complete answer in this case. So between A and D, I will go for D because it is complete answer and it is more effective answer where I could say that okay, there is I have a right to private defense where I can also go and of someone. That is how your answer is determined here. Please let me know if all of you understood here. Just make sure that if you are understanding how you go about it, what tricks and tips you should be following when you are solving the question, you're hitting the like button so that we come up with more such videos for all of you to make this exam easier, right? So moving forward from here, then again there is a situation given to all of you. So where it is saying a city government passes a law imposing heavy fine on industries that discharge untreated waste into rivers. Okay, so what is done here? A fine is imposed on certain industries that are discharging untreated waste. They who are not following the guidelines. So because of this, several factories in the region has to shut down their operations, citing financial difficulties. So now factories stop their operations, citing that okay, it is getting financially difficult for us, so we are shutting down our operation. The question is asking about cause and effect relationship. What is the cause and what is the effect? So you have to understand the cause in this case and you have to understand the effect. So now we read it one by one. The new law directly caused the factory to shut down. That is your first option. That the new law resulted in the shutting down of factory. Okay. Second is financial burden of compliance with the law led to factory closure. Okay. Factory shut down due to unrelated economic factors, not the new law. It is not unrelated economic factors because these factors are already here. Uh, when you're when you're when you are going for treatment of waste before you discharge it, of course there are financial obligations involved, right? And which was imposed by the law. Last, government intended to close down the industry by passing the law. So that was not the intent. The intent of the government was to make sure that the factories are not discharging untreated waste. So we can directly eliminate option C and D because it is going against what is given in the options in the question. Now let us come to these two options. The new law directly caused the factories to shut down. Was there a direct causation here? No. The new law targeted that the factories are discharging the waste which is treated, which is the harmful substances of which is treated properly before you put it in the river bodies, right? So there was not a direct cause, but yes, this law created a financial burden because of which factories had to close. So this looks like a more appropriate option amongst the two, which is capturing the crux of the situation. So you have to figure out a cause which resulted in certain happening, certain effect. So that is how you figure out the answer for cause and effect relationship. Always, I will suggest something, just one tip for all of you here. Make sure that when you get such kind of questions, you are clearly looking at the options. You are trying to eliminate. When we talk about the competitive examination, the crux is in elimination of options. It's not finding the right answer, but the logic with which you are eliminating rest of the option, and then you will hit the target. Trust me on this. So always look at the question very objectively. Please do not let your subjective bias come in when you're answering the question. Chalo, moving forward to question number 10, where a taxi driver was employed by another person, and while filling petrol on the petrol pump, he struck a match to light a cigarette and carelessly threw the matchstick on the floor, which resulted in fire and damaged the petrol tank. What kind of liability is there for the master, right? So here the hint is given to you. This person is acting in capacity of the master. Liability under tort, fair, but what kind of liability? It's a very broad option. Second is strict liability. We know strict liability is when you bring some non-natural thing, and same goes for absolute liability. So these options are directly eliminated. Now we have vicarious liability, which is capturing the crux. Here, vicarious liability is the exact liability that can be imposed. For when you are acting through another, then all the wrongful activities, you are responsible, respondent superior, correct? So in this case, the correct answer would be liability under vicarious liability. Why we have eliminated tort? Because it's a very broad domain. We have a narrowed down option which is hitting the main point. So that is why we'll go for this answer. Correct. Moving forward to the next question, which is X, a notorious wildlife trafficker, enters into an agreement with a foreigner to deliver certain quantity of nails of tiger. Now he managed to ship the consignment, but that consignment did not reach Y. Which of the following gives the correct legal position of this contract? So we have to think from contract point, right? So first, the contract is valid and hence enforceable. But do we see certain illegality? Yes. This person is a trafficker and he sent nails of tigers, right? So he is indulged in trafficking again, right? So this is something which is unlawful, something which is not allowed by law. So it is not enforceable. Next, again, is mentioning that it is valid subject to approval of Government of India. For any illegal act, we cannot wait for approval of Government of India. So this option is also not incorrect. Next is saying it is void. Correct. This is our correct answer, but also let us look at the last option, which is saying that it is voidable. Voidable only happens when when the party's consent is not freely taken. So here the answer would be C. Please let me know if all of you are able to understand clearly that why these how are we actually solving these questions. If all of you are able to understand it clearly, press the like button. Let me know in the comment section that all of you are able to follow this discussion. All of you are able to understand how to eliminate it. This is a preview of your actual exam. And this is how all of you should be using your time to eliminate all the options. That is how you will reach out to the correct answer shortly. And please stick to the information which is given there. Please do not apply information unless and until there is no uh, such indication given. Like in the present question, it is directly asking you the meaning of undue influence. So here you need to know what undue influence means. So undue influence, let us look at the option. So it is a situation where one party unfairly pressures another into a contract by using the position of power. Correct. There is a dominant authority and other person has used that dominant authority. So that is the meaning of your option here. Next is okay, agreement between two party that is mutually beneficial. It is not mutually beneficial because undue influence is a concept given under free consent, where the free consent is valid. accepted. So it is not freely entered into, where one party is influenced, where one party is where the authority is misused by the other party, right? Then other option is talking about fraud. Again, it's not a question of fraud. Here it is influence. Here it is uh, abuse of power, right? And last is mistake. So it's not a mistake. So the correct answer here would be A. This is a question where your knowledge will come in, correct? Okay, next question again requires some legal knowledge. But as you can see, all of these questions are very, I would say, simple. These questions are very direct. And if you have read the basic concepts clearly, you will be in a position to target and to understand all of these questions. It's not something which is asking for your in-depth legal knowledge, but just a basic outline of law. Like here, it is asking about which of the following Muslim law apply in India. We know there is no such thing as Muslim penal code or any specific religion's law of evidence or sale of goods act, but we know that there is a law which targets protection of rights on divorce. This law was enacted by Parliament in 1986. So this is going to be your correct answer here, right? Next question. So here there is an assertion reasoning question. In order to answer assertion reasoning question, always first check that whether assertion is true or not, whether reason is true or not, and only then you go and you check that whether whatever is asserted, the so if you can connect both the sentences using the term because. So if let's say I have to say that XYZ is a murderer because he killed the other person, or he his offense falls under the relevant murder provision. So that is when you will say that it is the correct explanation. So make sure that we are following this concept when we are marking assertion reasoning. Let us look at the assertion here. So it is saying that confession made under police pressure is admissible, but we know that it is not admissible. Here, again, to test whether the assertion is true or reason is true, some basic legal concept is required. So, I will emphasize again that for MH-CET exam, please focus upon reading some basic concepts. Please make sure that before you go for legal section, you have read some basic concepts. So here we see that assertion is clearly false. Let us look at the reason. A confession is a statement made by an accused that can be used as evidence against them. Yes, it is a correct explanation of confession. So our answer here would be C, which is saying assertion is false, but the reason is true. So are we good to go till here? Give me a thumbs up. Okay. Good. Moving forward to the next question, which is talking about again the legal principle, and it is talking about a factual situation. So, here the principle is the defense of necessity arises when a person is forced to prevent greater harm from taking place. Now, there are factual situations here. Two friends were there, A and B, who were drinking alcohol in the farm in the outskirts of the city, and this person met with an accident. Now this person is about to die because there is heavy blood loss. So other person who was already drunk decided to drive and take the other person to the hospital. Now we know that drinking and driving is an offense. We know that there was a medical emergency that happened to the other person, and we also know that there was no vehicle available here. The house was remotely located. So now the question is, when the question is here that the doctor called the police and police is charging B for drunken driving. Can B take their defense of necessity? Let us look at the option. So B is not liable because he was discharging his duty as a friend. Again, this becomes a very moral answer. So this is not the correct option. Second is saying that he was discharging his moral duty, clearly a moral based answer, not our correct option. Then B is liable because he drove the car while he was drunk. But the question is asking you for the defense. It is not asking you to give verdict. It is asking that if you are defending B, what are the points that you will say in favor of B? C, option C is not in favor of B, right? Let us look at the last option. B is not liable because he did the act out of necessity to protect his friend's life, and as other means of transport were not available. So this option is following the question which is being asked as well as the principle that is there. So this is our correct answer. We move on to the next question, which is asking about a contract is considered legally enforceable when. So we have to answer legal enforceability. So first option is saying that it is made between two parties even if one party is minor. So we know that any contract with minor is void. Next is based on mutual agreement, lawful consideration, and free consent. Yes, definitely that is there. So, lawful consideration, free consent, mutual agreement, all of these are part and parcel of your contract, right? A valid contract. Next is it is only written and signed by both the parties. So, when we are reading contract law, we know that even implied contract or verbal contracts are also binding. So you don't really need to have a written contract, right? So this option is not following. Let us look at the last option. It is made without consideration. So without consideration, agreements are unenforceable or void. So our correct option would be option B. Moving to the next question, which is your Nirbhaya case judgment is related to. So in this case, when we talk about Nirbhaya case, it was a case related to gang rape. So our correct answer is gang rape in this case. Next question is talking about the meaning of the term bail. What does bail mean? Temporary release of person who is waiting trial. So bail happens for somebody who is accused of an offense and the guilt is not yet proven. So the trial is going on against the person, or you are still waiting for the trial to happen, right? So let us look at the option. So first is saying that fine imposed by the court as punishment for a crime. So punishment, it's not there because in bail, your guilt is not yet proven. Option B is saying temporary release of an accused person awaiting trial. Yes, correct. This can be our answer. Permanent exemption, it is not permanent exemption. Last option is type of compensation paid to the victim of a crime. No, it is not something that goes to victim of a crime. So our answer is B. Next question is A finds a purse lying at a corner of a platform. He picks it up. On examining the content of the purse, he finds some visiting card and cash. Now he picked up the purse. He found that there are things inside. Now he threw away the card, and meanwhile police spotted him. Okay, and police got suspicious of it, and because there was a recent complaint filed regarding a lost purse. Now police arrest A for interrogation. What is the liability of A? Theft, criminal misappropriation, criminal breach of trust, or no guilt. So we have to understand the concepts. Here also you need to have basic meaning clear. You need to have a basic knowledge of all the concepts. First is theft. Theft is where you have done an act to take the movable property outside the possession. But here the purse was already lying. I have not taken it outside somebody's possession. So theft is not our answer. Criminal misappropriation, that there is something there and uh, you have misappropriated it. You have harbored the intention, the criminal intent, that later on to not give it back or to misappropriate the property. Okay, something was taken by you but the intention was developed at a later stage. In breach of trust, the property is delivered to you and then you develop wrongful intention. So here the correct answer would be misappropriation, and no guilt is not the right answer because of course you are guilty when you are throwing the card away. This shows that okay, I am throwing the card and I have no intention of returning. If you had an intention to return, then you will take the purse as it is and you would have gone to police people. Why do we you throw or discard away the card? So that is why no guilt will not be your answer. Next question is based upon what legal principles are there while obtaining the consent of the promisee, keeping silence by the promiser when he has duty to speak about the material fact amount to consent obtained by fraud. So here, if you are silent about certain thing in which you were supposed to speak, then it is always stated that it's a fraud that you have committed. So in this case, let us look at the options. So here, both of them, they knew each other since a long time, and here a statement was made while making the purchase of the car, that if you don't say anything, if you do not deny it, I will assume that the car is in sound condition, but the engine of the car has heating problem. and this was not disclosed to P. So in this case, a duty was imposed, right? What case it will be? So do you think it's fraud? Yes, because you were silent, and you're silent. You were silent in the situation when there was a duty to speak about the fact. So that amounts to breach. That amounts to deceiving, deception. So yes, there is fraud, but there's no undue influence. Why? Because the purchase was not happening because of certain dominating power or position. There was no force used, so there's no coercion. Now there's no misrepresentation also, because you have not misrepresented anything. You have not said anything falsely. So there was no misrepresentation also. Now let us move to the next question. So next question is talking about 49th Chief Justice of India. So what is the correct answer for this 49th Chief Justice of India? Here it is a current affairs based knowledge. Here it is a knowledge which requires your current knowledge, right? So the correct answer for this will be Justice UU Lalit. Uday Umesh Lalit is your 49th Chief Justice of India. Next question is, how is divorce legally defined? If you have to define divorce, what is the legal definition of it? So first is the cancellation of a marriage ceremony before it takes place. So divorce happens once a marriage ceremony is done in order to end that marriage. So before is not the right answer. Then there is legal dissolution of marriage by the court or competent authority. This follows. Then there is separation of couple without legal approval. This is incorrect, because here you go to court to ask for divorce and you need a legal approval for it. Then last is process of annulling the marriage as if it never existed. See, annulment is when you say that the marriage procedures were not correctly performed. And this marriage was never a marriage in first place. But divorce says that, okay, there was a valid marriage, but we want to end that marriage. So that is the purpose of divorce. So that is why the correct answer here would be B in this case. We go to the next question. How many high courts are operating in India? So you have to understand that it is asking about high courts operating in India right now. This is again a question which requires your basic knowledge, basic understanding of legal aspects, some basic concepts around the legal aspect, the GK related question where you need to know certain information, like Chief Justice of India, Attorney General of India, Solicitor General of India, position holder, law ministers, Governor of State, and Chief Ministers of State, Prime Minister. All of these are position holders, who is Controller and Auditor General of India. So all of these things you need to know. How many high courts are operating? So the correct answer in this case would be 25. Correct? Next question would be A. Poor farmer was already in debt to B, a money lender. A is again in urgent need of money. So he already owed some money, but he now needs money again. So he seeks a new loan, which B grants with unreasonably high interest. So here I already owe certain amount to you. I need more money. And now since you know that I need more money and I'm already in need for the amount, I will need the amount. So you have a dominating, you have a power to take unfair advantage of me. And have you done that? Yes, when you have given me unreasonably loan at an unreasonably high interest rate. So there was no fraud because I was aware of the situation. There is no coercion because you have not pressured me to take loan from you only. Was there undue influence? Yes, I was influenced because you have that authority and you have misused it. Was there a misrepresentation? No, there was no false statement made here. So that is how you mark your answer. We have solved all 24 questions, right? So all 24 questions are solved here, and that is your correct answers. And then here you go and you go to other sections and you solve other questions, other sections. And once you have done everything, then only you submit your answer. Also, here you will see that a timer is going on. So you will get that time to solve all the questions. So now just That's all for the legal reasoning section. I hope all of you were able to understand and follow what is how you actually go ahead and mark your legal reasoning answers. And just one thing before I end the session, few tips from my end. First and the most important thing is when you are marking your answer, please follow your instincts. Don't sit and overanalyze the answer. That is when you get your answers incorrect. Second, if you have not already downloaded the admit card or you have downloaded irrespective, please re-download it to get the um, final venue details for your examination. Please cross verify your venue once, the location, time, everything. Target that you're reaching the venue uh, timely, at least 30 minutes, 40 minutes before the actual exam time, so that you have also accounted for the traffic that you will find in and around the venue. Also, if there is another session scheduled at 3:30 p.m. with Sanjana ma'am for uh, verbal reasoning section, make sure that you are attending that session as well. If you have found all the information, if you have found the current video helpful to you, make sure that you are hitting the like button and subscribing to our channel. Also, let us know in the comment section how you like the video. All the very best. Come back to this video and let me know after the exam if this video helped you with your legal reasoning section. All the very best to all the aspirants, hoping that you all get into your dream college. So thank you so much, everyone. I would like to end the streaming here. Thank you, everyone.